Hi, I'm Kate O'Mara. This is my synthesis presentation, Easing Students into College, the Impact of Multidimensional Support for Underprepared Students. Slide 1, Research Design Refresher, a quick refresher. Regression discontinuity design is the highest caliber of causal inference, aka a natural experiment. Natural cutoffs are birth date, earthquake, and a score. The regression discontinuity design applies only if there's a clear cutoff that separates the treatment and the control group. The cutoff is a variable that crossed the threshold. RDD measures the treatment effect at the cutoff. We care about the people just above and below the cutoff. Slide 2A, Regression Discontinuity Design. Why, when, would we need to use this research design? Here's an example. Out of the many projects financed by the European Union, some are more effective than others. The evaluation of policy is a key factor in understanding their impact. Regression Discontinuity Design, or RDD, is a powerful counterfactual impact evaluation method. Consider a program to support the job search of unemployed workers who are 25 years old or younger. How effective is the program in increasing their chances in finding a job? RDD looks at individuals who are slightly above the age of 25 and those who are slightly below it. The fact that the rules can be discretionary ensures that people close to the threshold are very similar, except for the fact of participating in the program. For example, consider Group A of unemployed people between ages 24 and 25, and Group B with ages between 26 and 27. These groups should have, on average, the same income, education, motivation, etc. Only Group A can take up the training, whereas Group B is excluded. The difference in the average employment rates between the two groups, the so-called RDD estimate, can be associated with their participation in a given training. Regression discontinuity design takes advantage of precise knowledge of threshold rules that determine participation in a certain program. This makes the regression discontinuity design a very powerful method to evaluate the impact of policies and therefore helps to improve the design of future policies. Slide 2B. An OLS wouldn't be able to show the effect of the treatment while accounting for trends over time. Now that we've refreshed our memory about regression discontinuity design, let's talk about the article. Slide 3, Research Questions. The article title is Easing Students into College, the Impact of Multidimensional Support for Underprepared Students. Enhanced Academic Success Experience Initiative, EASE or EASE, is the first research study to answer the question, is there a causal estimate of the benefits for underprepared students in a particular field to engage with a learning community program? The underlying theory of the learning community is to provide a cohort of students in their support classes. Familiar faces encourage a sense of belonging. This study seeks to find evidence of the impact of the learning community on student participants during their first year. Slide 4, Datasets. UCI School of Biological Sciences. The datasets were freshmen within Ayala School of Biological Sciences at the University of California, Irvine. The collected data came from the registrar's office. Department information concerned the EASE enrollments, and there were 200 question surveys sent to participants. The unit of observation is the individual. The authors stated that the results only speak to the students around the threshold and are therefore not to be generalized to others outside this study. It is interesting to note that what prompted the study is that underrepresented minority students are about 1/3 of the higher education population in California. Underrepresented minority students graduate and become about 12% of the STEM workers in the United States. So there's a concern about the attrition rate for half the STEM freshmen who don't make it to graduation within 4 years. 35% of biology majors will change their major before they graduate. Slide 5, Datasets Continued. Enhanced Academic Success Experience Initiative, EASE, uses the Regression Discontinuity design because students are placed in classes based on a sharp cutoff of obtaining less than 600 on their SAT math score. The students in the program are in a cohort clustered by the arbitrary determinant. Student participants were assigned to EASE in cohorts of 30 for their freshman year. The study bandwidth was plus or minus 60 points. The pilot year of 2015 to 2016 of EASE asked for volunteers. Out of 1,200 students that year, 120 or 10% volunteered for EASE. The study year, 2016-17, all students with less than a 600 score on the SAT math test were assigned to the program. Approximately half of the freshman class was assigned to EASE. Slide 6A, Measurements. This slide has a copy of the table of summary statistics. On the left-hand side, you can see a list in panel A and panel B of the different variables considered by the researchers. The x-axis is the dependent variable and is highlighted in blue, showing that student scoring of 600 or less on the SAT math score would make the student eligible or make it a requirement for the student to be part of the EASE program. The y-axis, or the independent variable, are the outcomes, being the scores in the support classes for biology and chemistry. Again, the x-axis is the dependent variable, or the SAT scores. The y-axis is the independent variable, or the course grades. The treatment is the assignment to the EASE program, with participants being included in the support classes, the cohort placement, and regular mentor meetings. Slide 6B, Measures. At the top of the slide is a grid showing the individual measures and the program measures. The researchers are looking for evidence in both categories. Individual measures include academic performance, biology 93, biology 94, chemistry and the support classes, and retention within the biology program. Program measures are non-cognitive, social integration, self-esteem, and expectancy value. This model measures students within the bandwidth of the cutoff rather than self-selected into support programs. The variable measures to the underrepresented minority student who may or may not benefit from EASE. EASE participants had higher scores than the 2014 cohort who were pre-programmed freshman class, and untreated. The scores were compared to their counterparts who did not participate in the program. 2015 pilot year with volunteers and the 2016 program is the first required year in the EASE program if the participant scored less than 600 on the SAT math test. Slide 7, Measures. The authors mention that inclusion in the EASE program and the retention outcome are binary indicators. Commonality of the control variable is less than 600 on the SAT math score. Appendix D of this article explores alternative explanations for the results with validity and robustness checks within the data. Interesting variables include this freshman class is 68% female, 48% first-generation university student, 33.7% underrepresented racial minority, 53% is Asian, and 12% is white. The demographics for this biology program show that this cohort of freshmen is more women than men, has a large Hispanic and Asian population. Nearly half of the students are first generation in their family to go to university. Slide 8, the method. The baseline model is the pre-EASE year 2014, which gives expectation parameters of a 35% program attrition rate. The authors complete an intend to treat analysis and compare it with the 2016 cohorts. The results showed EASE has decent, statistically significant positive effects on all academic outcome measures. The baseline provides a guide to find if the treatment is effective, which in this article seems to be the case. Slide 9, the method continued. They, the authors, used the regression discontinuity for the effects estimation by comparing two groups of students, plus or minus 60 points at the 600 SAT math score, with the minus 60 students receiving the treatment. Validity and robustness checks bolstered the evidence that the program increased retention and GPA. The authors seek to identify the impact of the EASE program. The justification for using the rigorous RDD is to show correlation with possible causation of the positive effects of EASE on the treatment cohort's outcomes. The validity checks break down the variables for the individuals showing the pre-treatment indicators within the freshman group and the bandwidth of the study participants. Slide 10, the method. The RDD used a sharp cutoff for the study which limits selection basis, assuming full compliance. The researchers did run a fuzzy RD design using assignment as a variable to show the consistent estimate of outcome. Other variables considered estimates for prior years show academic support only for academically underprepared students did not produce increased retention. The authors did attempt to account for the individual outcomes with underrepresented racial minority students by conducting exploratory analysis of the EASE program components, which included the academic as well as social emotional supports for students to integrate into the academic environment. Slide 11, the results. The top of the slide is a grid showing individual measures and program measures. Individual measures, academic performance improved. Biology 93 and 94, and B+. Chemistry support, passed. Retention rate, plus 13%. The program measures non-cognitive improved, social integration improved, self-esteem scale improved, expectancy value improved. The results measured by the stated outcome criteria show a positive impact in real terms increase of 0.77 grade points. There was an increased first-year retention rate of 13% in the biology department, meaning that year over year, this year's biology department in 2016 had an attrition rate of 20% approximately, which was better than the 2015 attrition rate of 35%. The biology courses 93 and 94 had an improved grade. It was expected that the cohort would have a B-. Overall, their average was a B+ by the end of the course with the treatment group and program participants. The chemistry support class was passed overall. The self-reported social programs and social skills were improved across the board, and those students who completed the first year had an expectancy to stay in the biology department to graduate. Slide 12, the results. The authors analyzed the data from the pre-EASE cohort 2014 to create their projections. The 2015 pilot year program participants were voluntary but served to inform the researchers of what outcomes to expect. The researchers were concerned that all the 2015 participants were voluntary and perhaps had more motivation than participants who would be assigned. The 2016 cohort outcomes showed a positive correlation between the EASE participants for the individual and for the biology department retention. It does not appear that the researchers changed or omitted estimation data. Slide 13, the results. Regression discontinuity served to compare the treatment cohorts with the non-treatment counterparts. The method allowed researchers to isolate variables so that the results indicate a strong relationship between the program and the outcomes for the cohort students in 2016. The authors confirmed the methodology served to determine positive effects. They asserted EASE has a positive effect on underrepresented racial minority students and is a successful field-specific learning community. Slide 14, my interpretation. The questions are, do I buy the justification for regression discontinuity design? And does the article address this? So, is the regression discontinuity design justified for this study? Yes, the RDD provides the framework for researchers to investigate the impact of the EASE program, so it justifies the examination of two groups of students near the SAT math score cutoff. Does Zhu and other researchers address the regression discontinuity design toward causal inference? Yes. The researchers show that their methodology covered the proposed outcomes, validity, and robustness concerns within the study. By being thorough, the researchers can claim movement toward causal relationship within the scope of the study. Are there holes in the regression discontinuity design or the study not addressed? Yes and no. The researchers outlined the next steps in their limitations paragraph, suggesting long-term data on the 2016 cohort, as well as examining subsequent cohorts to compare overall outcomes. Slide 15. My interpretation continued. Regression discontinuity design examines the outcomes of two groups within the bandwidth, the treatment group and the control group. The RDD in this article suggests that participation in the program has a statistically significant correlation with possible causation for the 2016 EASE participants who showed higher GPA and retention within the biology department. The authors followed the RDD protocols to check validity and robustness. They stated limitations and suggested future research for this cohort and subsequent freshman classes to find if the impact of familiar faces is positive using this program. Based on this article, it seems that regression discontinuity examines the outcomes of two groups within a bandwidth, the treatment group and the control group, which does address the issues of causality with a long-term study. This research only discusses one freshman class. The data shows correlation in 1 year. With longitudinal studies, research would be able to narrow the unknown variables over time to be able to say if there is a causal connection between the program and raising grades and program retention. The reference citation for the article, Easing Students into College, the Impact of Multidimensional Support for Underprepared Students. And that's the end of my synthesis presentation. Thank you for listening.